One of the important aspects in IT for any organization with or without a compliance is for how long to retain data that they already have. And we are going to talk about that today from DPDP perspective. Welcome to my YouTube channel where you regularly see new content on data privacy and DPDP, and we are going to talk about data retention under DPDP Act. So why does this really happen? People acquire data, store it at a place, use it, but when their purpose is over, they forget about it. Talking of data overall, I know so many organizations where their file servers would have information about projects which got over 15 years back. You look at the dates of the files, they would be 17 years, 18 years old. You run an assessment on the file server, you realize more than 80% of data has not even been touched in the last 6 months. Now you'll say, what about 6 months, one day? Yeah, so the percentages would change. I agree. But why 20 or 30% of data that has not been touched for 20 years? That's interesting. A lot of people move it away from the primary storage, keep it on another storage, and that adds to the risk because now that's a secondary storage you are not even monitoring on a daily basis. Right? Why? Because no one owns the deletion of data. Systems keep accumulating old records, former employees' data, historic vendor information, archived backups. Backups is one of the important things. But backups are safer. Why they are safer? Because it is not very easy for anyone to pick up a tape and start recovering data out of it. And if it is happening within your system, then you have the logs for it. Right? Backup does not mean that the data is available in raw form to anyone to copy paste and use. No, whether it's personal or official. But in other cases, it's lying in a raw form. I know a hospital which has 20-year-old IBM database, IBM equipment with a database in DB2 running on the old IBM AS400. They still use it when they need old information. But why not convert it and put it on the live storage and leave it over there? What if someone hacks it over there? This happens, as I said, storage is cheap. I don't fully agree with this, but the fact that the IT has a lot of budget, storage looks cheap. Right? Otherwise, if I have to spend 10 lakh rupees just for no reason, and it happened with me at one customer, a 200 terabyte storage order got cancelled because post assessment we realized that one complete storage had no meaningful data on it, though it was 90% utilized. 90% of 200 terabyte is a huge number, right? Systems rarely enforce deletion. Automatically, it does not happen, right? And anyone else, after completion of a project and looking at that folder after, say, 1 year or 2 years, no one wants to take that decision on anyone else's behalf to delete any useful information or assumably a useful information. No one owns the retention decisions and retention mechanisms. So personal data also remains in systems for very long. It is not deleted. DPDP says you define the purpose. Fine, you take the consent, you collect the data. But when you define the purpose, you also define when is this purpose going to be over. If you believe that you are taking data for telemarketing, which you will do lifelong, you still need to define a period of 2 years or 3 years, right? And take a consent again, collect information again. You will find many of them where email IDs might have changed, where phone numbers might have changed. So you are also working on incorrect information and you are also utilizing resources. DPDP says define the purpose and a period when the purpose is going to be over, and then delete the data or anonymize the data. Anonymize is another way to ensure that no one is able to read it once the purpose is over. Now, anonymization would even actually end up requiring more budgets and resources, but only if you think that data might be useful. Else, DPDP says delete it. The hidden risk continues. You have more data, slowly pushed off to shadow IT, large breach impact, complex discovery of data. Even the assessment tools find it difficult to do that. Higher exposure, increased risk from the vendor point of view. So keeping unnecessarily data would unnecessarily increase your organizational liabilities. Practical starting point should be what personal data are we collecting, why, and for how long. When will the purpose end? Right? And purpose has to have a time period. It cannot be that a purpose is indefinite. It has to have a time period. Do a refresh. Get more accurate information as well as remove the old information. Fine. This helps define the retention timelines. When you know what the purpose is, you know how long you need the data. Now, in this case where I'm saying you take a consent in 2 years and then you do a refresh, you may not delete it, but you might end up deleting a lot of records which have become stale. And in fact, for e-commerce, DPDP is also saying that if a customer has not placed an order for 3 years, remove his personal information. So you need to automate your systems to handle such situations. Start small. Start with your employee data. Why do you need an employee data who has left the organization? Maybe for 2 years because of provident fund requirements. Right? Anything else? Do you need information of an employee 10 years after he has left the organization? No, you don't. If he wants to rejoin, his CV will list your company's name. Right? Simple. So you should not retain his data for that long. And if you want to rehire, after 10 years, his information would have changed a lot, especially in HR. His working experience, his knowledge, his skills, they all would have changed, irrespective of what department it is. Vendor records, they also keep changing, by the way, because contact people change. So define the basic retention rules of these and then expand it to a larger one. The real fact that you have to remember is DPDP is not just merely taking consents. It is also to know when to stop holding the data that you have already collected. Achieve stronger governance by deleting the data that you no more need. Do this exercise at the earliest. Your governance would be better, breach impact would be reduced, and a lot of resources would be freed up. Or you might not need to buy more resources for future projects. So that's about data retention under DPDP Act. I hope you like the content of the video. Please press the bell and the like icon, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and share your feedback in the comment section. Thank you.